So let's take a minute to talk about relationships. Relationships are obviously quite a hot topic. I think they're always a hot topic, but at the minute it is when it comes to male life advice. It does turn out to be quite a hot topic. There's an awful lot of information out there. There's a lot of conflicting information out there. And I suppose, yeah, we should talk about that. I think that's a good video to talk about. So let's get into that. I know from my friends that an awful lot of them have come to me, especially lately, and they've talked about how they are finding it challenging to get a relationship. These are young men. These are, mid-20s, good jobs. They've got a good life. They're struggling away on other things for sure, but, everything does seem to be there. They train in the gym. They're getting out there. They're working. They're saving money. They're driving. They've got their ambitions. But when it comes to their love life, when it comes to trying to find a woman, they are finding it very difficult. Now, I did see on my last post that somebody had commented and they're talking about this transactional relationship, that expectation that is on the cards at the minute. And I think we do need to discuss that. Being with a partner is a transaction. So let's clear that up and let's get this out the way. It is a transaction. Anytime you're in a friendship or a partnership or anything like that, it can be seen as a transaction. I don't think that's generally the way I would look at it. I think it's too, perhaps not financial, but it's certainly too statistical, in my opinion, when you're talking about relationships. When there is a man and a woman in a partnership, I like to call them partnerships because you work with your partner. There is strengths and weaknesses on both sides of the fence, and it does take two to wherever my weaknesses are might be my partner's strength, and vice versa. That's the whole purpose of a good working relationship. Now, you can see that as transactional if you want, and that's grand. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I just think that when you're working together, it's not seen as a transaction. It's seen as support. It's seen as love, caring, strength, providing. It's not seen as I will do this and you will do that. Or I expect to give you this, and in return, I expect to give to take back a certain thing. I think that's a bad way of looking at it, and it does cause some problems because it's already you're predetermining set expectations when it comes to your relationship. Yes, I understand you may have money, or you may have property, or you may have fantastic skills at home, or you're phenomenal for support. But in today's world, it's not as clean cut. The roles aren't as clean cut as it used to be. And I think people need to understand that. Back in the day, when I look at my mother and father's situation, when they were my age, they had 2 children. My mother stayed at home. My father worked. That, yes, is an ideal goal. But in today's economy, in today's world, it's not an overly realistic situation for most people. You're going to have to work as the man. You're going to have to try and earn as much money as you can. And your partner, realistically, is going to have to too. Like, they are going to also have to put in the work. They're going to have to try and earn some money. They're going to have to be able to provide and support. Now, in the ideal long term, for every man, he wants to get into a job where it's a career, it earns enough money, where he can then, somewhere down the line, look to provide support, where he can say to his wife, oh, well, do you know what, honey? You don't need to work, and I will work and I'll provide for you. But that for maybe, I don't know the demographic, but for most young men, that's not going to be the case. That can't be the case. Like, it's too expensive. It's too difficult. It's unless you're in a really, really high paying job, and like they are few and far between. That's not going to be a reality. And you have to understand that. If you're out there working, and even if you are earning more money, even if you are out there and you're kind of you're the breadwinner, so to speak, but your partner is still working, you have to consider the fact that they are still working. They're still going in, they're clocking in a shift, they're coming home tired, just like you. And so these traditional roles of, oh, I earn the money and you do all the work, you have to put a bit of respect on that. Would you like it if you came home from work and she said to you, oh, I need you to do the cooking, the cleaning, the washing up, I need the house tidied, if you've children, I need the kids fed? Like, come on, to fuck, like, that's unrealistic. So you can't expect that either. You work together up until a time that you can afford to have that type of lifestyle. You work together up until a time when you can afford for one of the two, whether it be you or whether it be her, to be in a position to be able to stay at home, like where that person's role then does become the role of the homeowner, the housekeeper, like the fucking the glue that sticks it all together. But up until that stage, that is an unrealistic expectation. So many men out there are pumping this idea that, like, as a chap, you should be out there earning loads of money and your woman shouldn't work. She should be staying at home and all this crack. Like, what a load of shite. That is unrealistic. That is unrealistic starting out. Get that out of your head. Because unless you're going to be in the top 1% of earners, and let's be honest, even at that, you would still, you're not going to have the big house and everything. Even if you're on 120, 130, 150 a year, certainly here in Ireland after tax, okay, yeah, you'll afford a home. But it's not going to be a big mansion. You're not going to afford a big mansion on that. You could afford maybe a nice family home. And you'll be in a position to then maybe keep your partner at home. But it's important to address this. It's important to address this idea, this concept that's going around at the minute, where certain men, online influencers, are saying that that's the reality. Go out, get a job, and look for a woman that's going to stay at home. Yes, it's not a terrible idea. Down the line. Initially, though, work towards what makes a good partner. Let's look at this first and foremost. Let's worry about what you'll do with them when it comes to that point. There's no point crossing bridges before you come to them. This is a core concept, in my opinion. Do not cross bridges before you come to them. Let's worry about the money and the wife staying at home and the kids and the house and the mortgage and the cars. Let's leave all that be. Let's instead focus on getting a partner. An awful lot of people are finding it challenging to get a partner. I don't need statistics to see it. Tinder, Bumble, I don't really know the modern ones, but I know there's loads of them, and they're all earning an absolute fortune by charging people to go online and try and find their partner. So there's money in it, and if there's money in it, it means loads of people are trying to do it, which means loads of people are struggling to find a partner. That's grand. Finding a partner is hard, but it's harder when you don't know what you're looking for. And even if you don't know what you're looking for, you definitely need to know what you're not looking for. You know yourself better than I know you. So you will be the only one that can answer these questions. You might like somebody, or say you're an active person, you have an active, quite explorative life, you like going doing things, you're quite curious, you like going out and traveling. Well, then maybe look for a partner in that kind of field. Maybe if you like staying at home, you're more maybe a bit more introverted, you like staying at home and reading and watching films and doing your hobbies or being on the computer. Well, then maybe it'll suit you a little bit to have somebody like that. But one key bit of advice I will give is that an awful lot of people, in my opinion, and it's certainly something I was guilty of myself, is that you look for somebody that's too similar to you. Relationships are a tough balance. There probably is handbooks out there. You can probably buy them. But from my experience, from the guys that I know, and from my own personal experience, and from looking at relationships of people at 10 years, 20 years, whatever, and relationships that work, what seems to be the case is that think of a relationship almost like a two-circle Venn diagram. I don't know if there's a term for that, but we've got two circles, and where the two circles meet in the middle, they're your common interests. You're not trying to overlap the circles. You're just trying to find common interests. I don't think it's particularly good in a relationship, or when you're trying to find a relationship, to find somebody that's an absolute carbon copy of you. I think that's a mistake. Everybody needs to be individual and have their own individuality. And when you're too similar to your partner, you kind of lose that, because it comes to a point where you're both doing the same hobbies. You both have the same friends. You're both going on the same trips. You're both taking your out of work, your social activities. They're both all the same. And you want a bit of that, but you don't want that to be your entire relationship. People need space. When you get together with a partner, so if you go out there, lads, and you're trying to find a woman, right? You are you at that age. Say you're 21, you're 22, and you're going out there and you're trying to find a partner. So you're going to meet a girl in and around the same age as you, and she is going to be her at that present time. You're wanting to try and find somebody that has similar interests to yourself. So you're not looking, if you love rock climbing, maybe you'll want to find somebody that maybe even hasn't done rock climbing but would be open to it. Maybe you like playing computer games. Maybe you'll want somebody that might not play computer games but would be okay hearing about them. And maybe she likes then, I don't know, doing whatever a girl does. Her makeup or going on coffee dates or horse riding or something maybe. It doesn't mean that you have to do it, but you have to be able to share that common interest at some point. Like, at some point in a relationship down the line, those interests will overlap. And you'll need to be there to support the person with that interest. That is a great way of looking at it. Because what it allows is that as a relationship grows, so you and your partner, as you age and as the relationship grows and matures and goes through its stresses, whilst you are becoming part of this whole, you're still retaining elements of your own individuality. I don't need to talk about how we all know somebody that's gotten in a relationship and you never hear from them, you never see them, nothing. Like they forget their friends, they forget everybody because they dive head first into this relationship. Both male and female. Is that good? Would you say that's good? Because being on the receiving end of that, you know, being that mate that gets left behind, that's shite. Like, why? Like, okay, our friends get in a relationship and they forget all about us. That's not fair and it's not good, and it never, ever lasts. It never lasts. That person is out there trying to change their entire personality, their entire character, to try and make this relationship work. Well, I don't think it will work. I don't think it does work. Whereas if you get in a relationship and you love spending time with your partner, with your girlfriend, at the weekend, you want to spend some time with the lads as you usually do. You have that Wednesday night meetup that you usually have or whatever. Then go to that, like. There's no problem in that. That's healthy. Because your partner should allow you to go out there and do that. And when it comes to her girls' night, you should turn around and go, well, this is something that you like doing and that you've always liked doing. And if I liked you when I met you first, and this was part of your life, that's obviously something that contributed to the person that I fell in love with. This is so important in a relationship, and something not really discussed enough is this individuality. Whether it be transactional, whether you look at it that way, whether you think you should go out there and find somebody that is a carbon copy of yourself. You know, you want somebody that's dead into the gym, you want somebody that's mad into business or whatever. Take a step back and think about that. You have your life. That's the life you live. Try and find somebody that has interests in that life, but also has their life that you can have interests in. That's super important. That's what works in a dynamic relationship. Because neither of you are changing at the core, but you are changing as you go ahead whilst still retaining your individuality. Super important. Super, super important. It's my number one, relationship tip. If you're getting in a relationship, stay individual. Retain your individual. Grow and accept and change to meet the relationship's demands and to meet your partner's demands, and they will have to do with you. But it's not a whole overhaul of personality. It's not a whole overhaul of character. You fell in love with the other person like they fell in love with you. Don't try and totally change that, and don't let somebody totally change that. It's very important. It's a fine line. Change in a relationship is a very fine line, but the line is there. Too much change, you start swinging to the point where, you know, you're forgetting your friends, you're forgetting your past relationships, all this crack. Not great, not great. Too little change, and you're not showing enough interest in your partner, or they're not showing enough interest in you. So it is a fine line to balance, and throughout the relationship, you don't just get in a relationship and everything's tip top. It's work. Like, it is work. As I said in the previous video, life is hard. Life is work. But you're half of the equation and they're half of the equation. And it won't always be 50-50. Sometimes it's 60-70 or 40 or, Jesus, 60-40 or 70-30. It changes all the time depending on the time and the person and the stress and the situation. There's nothing wrong with that. But in my opinion, it is so important that if you are going out looking for a partner, look for someone that can have that has an interest in your interests. They don't need to do it, but they have to have an interest. Find somebody that's interested in your interests. Very, very important. Very important. Charmaine and I love being on the computer. At the time when we actually got together, I spent an awful lot of time doing sports. You wouldn't know now, but I did. I did snowboarding, I did rock climbing, the whole shebang, track cycling, everything. And Charmaine wouldn't have been like mad into the gym. She would have been more, she would have done a bit of horse riding or a lot of dancing and stuff. So it was common interests. But as we've grown, my interests have changed, her interests have changed. We've been together for 9 years now, and we've seen huge changes, huge. I recognize the man looking back because he looks like me, but I definitely know, compared to personality, we're two totally different people. And that's life, that we have gone through life. But at the same time, as much as we love spending time with each other, as much as we dedicate evenings, or we love going for walks or drives or whatever it is, my partner still has her time. She goes off and does her stuff, her Pilates, her meeting up with the girls, all this crack. And I still have my things. I like going out for a drink with the lads, or going taking photographs, spending time online, whatever it is. We both have our own interests out with our combined interests in a relationship. Very, very important. I just wanted to talk about that because it was on somebody had commented on it. There was a bit of a discussion about it with transactions in relationships. Cut the word transaction. You're not buying something. You're not selling something. You're offering. And you're hoping to find somebody else that will offer. 50-50 is the aim. It's not statistically 50-50, but it's the give and the take, isn't it? It's the understanding of one another. That's the key to a really good relationship, a really strong relationship. I will do a video maybe about discussing how maybe finding partners, or maybe some techniques or tips to help find partners. I think this is long enough for one video. I don't want to go mad into making massive long videos, but if you want to see something like that, leave a comment below. Or if you want to see a video about anything, or hear my opinion on anything, let me know. I will do a video. I'm quite happy to do that. But yeah, in your relationship, my final words are, in your relationship, work as a partnership. Manage expectations. Manage the here and the now. Do not cross the bridges before you come to them. Work on the now. Worry about later. That time will come. It's inevitable. But focus on the here and now. Think about your relationship as a partnership, and retain your individuality, and allow somebody else, your partner, to retain their individuality. Very, very important. Lads, look after yourselves.